How was the country of New Zealand shaped and formed to what it is today? Welcome to another episode of Lost in Time. Today we dive deep into the formation of New Zealand's history. Before people, before names, before history was even written, New Zealand, or Aotearoa, didn't even exist. Over 80 million years ago, it broke away from a supercontinent called Gondwana land. For millions of years, it sat isolated. No humans, no mammals, only forests and birds. Then came the forces that shaped it to what it is today. New Zealand sits on two massive tectonic plates. They are the Pacific and Australian plates. They grind and collide and shift the land beneath our feet. New Zealand's land is constantly alive. Mountains rise from the oceans, earthquakes shake, volcanoes form across the country. However, there hasn't been one for a few hundred years. There are dozens of volcanic centres strewn throughout the country, from the massive Taupo volcanic zone to the Auckland volcanic field. Some eruptions were so powerful that they changed the landscape forever. Over 28,000 years ago, one of the largest eruptions in human history was recorded. This was Lake Taupo, and even today the ground itself is still moving. Spots around the lake that are still warm, and beneath the lake there is still magma. Then, after all that time, people arrived. Around 1200 to 1300 AD, Polynesian navigators arrived. They became Māori. They named the land Aotearoa, meaning the land of the long white cloud. They adapted, they survived, and built communities. They developed language, culture, and deep connections to the land. For centuries, this was their world. Then came outsiders. In 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman arrived on the shores. The encounter was said to be brief and violent, and he never set foot on the shores again. But a century later, in 1769, Captain James Cook arrived, this time mapping the coastline, recording what he saw, and opening the door to something much bigger. Soon after, European interest grew. Traders, missionaries, settlers. The French themselves even attempted to establish a presence in what is now known as Akaroa. But it was Britain that took control, and in 1840, the Treaty of Waitangi was signed. It was an agreement between Māori chiefs and the British Crown. But it wasn't as simple as that. They had different understandings and different languages. And soon, conflict followed. The New Zealand Wars would reshape the country. Land was taken and communities were changed forever. However, as the years passed, New Zealand continued to grow. Gold rushes in the 1800s brought thousands to the country, built townships almost everywhere, and yet disappeared just as quickly. Railways, farms, cities, the land was transformed. But the forces beneath it never stopped. Earthquakes remained common. From the 1855 Wairarapa earthquake, which was one of the largest recorded in human history at its time, to the more modern recent events of Christchurch in 2011, this is a country that never truly stands still. And what New Zealand is today is considered a modern nation. Cities, technology, global connections. But beneath all of that, the land still remains what it was. Shaped by fire, shaped by movement, shaped by everything that came before. From ancient forests, to Māori arrival, to colonisation, to what it is now. Because New Zealand was a place that was never just built, it was formed over millions of years. They even expect newer volcanoes to pop up in the next 100 or so years. If you go to the Auckland Museum, they have an entire exhibition on the possibility of what could happen in the harbour. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this quick deep dive on the history of New Zealand. If you want more forgotten history, don't forget to chuck us a follow and like. Cheers.